Friends, to all of my subscribers and audience, I just wanted to introduce Hans William, and he has written lot many books. He is a author, illustrator, and moreover, he is a spiritual spiritual light who is being given this guidance to all of the world, basis his take on spirituality. So I've been an earnest follower of Hans's videos, and I gave him invitation, and he was kind enough to accept my invitation, come on my channel and talk about first account his views on spirituality. And in today's difficult times, when we all are becoming a little bit pessimistic, we all are losing hope. So the divine guidance, divine refuge, spiritual refuge always gives us inspiration and motivation to forge ahead. So that is how. And now we will come to Hans sir, and he's going to tell a little bit about his take on spirituality, and then from there we will enter the karma zone and discuss first about the law of karma.
Well, Nipu, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be with you here. I'm always thrilled when young people, since you are much younger than I am, are interested in this material. It reminds me when I lived in Germany and I was a teenager at that time, and I was really questioning life in many, many ways. And at that time, there was no Google, there was no internet. And of course, I just didn't find any answers very easily. It was only much later that I came across the path of Edgar Cayce, who we call here in America the American sleeping prophet, who has written many books about life before life, life here on earth, and life after death. And he also, for the first time where I heard it, the word reincarnation and the word karma. This is not something which we in the Western world, in Europe, grow up with, because the Christian church officially does not teach it, although Christ very clearly taught reincarnation and karma. But the churches have managed successfully to take it out so that they let their believers believe we have got only this one lifetime, and the only way you can come to God is via their institution, which is a little bit not what I think is true. So put it mildly. So I was very delighted to suddenly find answers why some people are wealthy, why some other are poor, why some are sick, and somebody have all the luck in the world and the other seems to have no luck whatsoever. It's looked always to me like there was a very vicious or very kind of crazy God, if there was a God at all, because what kind of God would allow such differences here in life of people to have, and so much pain and suffering? And through understanding of karma and in a reincarnation, I suddenly thought I've understood most of it, because suddenly it was also clear. Now, in the Eastern world, of course, people have grown up with the concept of karma all the time for thousands of years. It's not new to them. But for us it was, and for me particularly it was. And after Edgar Cayce, I have studied many other paths, which all included this course of the law of karma and the law of reincarnation. And so that's why we go on.
So, sir,
Yeah.
many times what happen is that some people have these spiritual inclinations right from the birth. And in some of the cases, people have this sudden epiphany. So in your case, your transition and your inclination towards spirituality and everything, it happened with the epiphany, suddenly, sudden life event, or it has always been lying dormant in you and it grew with time.
Well, it probably was always there, but it came when I watched a movie, something very strange, an ordinary movie in a movie house, and I was 14 or 15. And it was a stupid movie. I totally forgot what it was, but there was a scene with the professor in Italy, and the professor had his study, and in his study there was a big blackboard on the back with all the chemicals or mathematical formulas written down there with charcoal. And I did, of course, none of them made sense to me. They were sort of backdrop only. But in the right-hand corner, there was written a formula saying 1 + 1 = 1. And when I saw this, it was just a jolt went through my whole being. And I said, this is the truth you have to live by. The understanding that everything is a oneness, is a unity, and it's not separated as we think it is through our intellect, where we put everything into boxes and groups and so on. No, everything is one, and every other person around me is part of me, and I'm part of them. So when I fully understand that, which at that time I didn't, but I knew there was a secret in this formula, there was a power in this formula, 1 + 1 = 1. then I suddenly wanted to know more because my traditional religions did not give answer to that one. So eventually I found the answer and understood it much better.
Yeah, that actually is the case. It's like because I've heard like when I read the biographies of so many spiritual light and figures, I always get to know this thing that in some of the cases the transition happened suddenly. So in your case as well, I can fairly see the resonance coming out of this formula: 1 + 1 = 1. So I can understand
Mm.
it, and I'm sure my audience who also has this spiritual potential, they will also be able to see the depth in this world. So yes, and so when we talk about karma, so like it influences us on all levels. Like you mean to say, sir, like divinity is always there and it is always giving us signs to be on the right path.
Yes, definitely. We are continuously, all the secret in life is just to stay awake, not to be so much asleep and in a routine. And the secret again is in to be more, as much as we can in the here and now, because there is everything is given to us. We don't have to be in the future. We don't, and every time we are in the future and the past, we are not really living. We are living in our mind. And that's not really a very helpful place to be. The only way where we can make decisions and when we can experience life and we can experience God, so to speak, is in the here and now. Another word for God, I would like to suggest, is the word now, because that's the only connection we can have with God is in the here and now, right now, whenever we wish to reconnect. We can't do it projecting it in the eventual future or something in the past. So the only access we have to God is in the now, and not only to God, but to life itself, and also most importantly, to ourselves, and know where we are and what we have to do and find our own path in the now.
And so, like many times, what happen is that to be here now, many people face this problem. Like even being an astrologer, when I see the charts of people, when I do consultations for them, so majority of the problems are not in the external world in their life, but the problem is in their psychological and mental state to keep that kind of calmness and be in that peaceful state. So, what do you think? Like meditation helps in that, divine faith helps you in that, recitation of holy names repeatedly helps you in that, doing unconditional service in the society helps you there. So what do you think, what could be the best way of be in the current moment and controlling your and restraining your senses?
Well, for me, it's really sort of one way to during the day is always meditation. That helps definitely. I am not somebody who recites spiritual names and so on, because that again can distract me as well from what's going on. So I'm really feeling to be in the here and now. The key is also to be in our feelings. What is happening, what comes up in us. And when we are too much in our head, like with not with meditations, but reciting or with kind of a ritual or whatever it is, we do not notice the feeling which are coming up. And through our feelings, we can discover ourselves. And we can discover also what is right now needs to be taken care of. So I like to be alert, and I do not necessarily do any kind of, as I said, rituals, because I really feel this may take me away from the here and now. And the key to the here and now is always in the feeling. What am I feeling right now? Am I anxious? Am I afraid? Am I nervous? Am I, whatever the feeling is. And in the feeling is the answer. And we find out where it comes from. We can find old programs. We can things up which we may worry about, think about, where we can make changes because we can explore it. But if we only think it, we will not get very deep. So the answer comes always, how do I feel? Not what I think. I may think I'm afraid, but what is really deeply feeling? How do I feel it? How is it in my body? How does my body right now feel? Tense, or is it open and wide, and is it loving? So the feeling gives me the key from moment to moment where I am and what's really up now with me and with my life right now. Because every moment of the day is carefully orchestrated by myself, for myself. So nothing happens by chance. Everything is carefully orchestrated. Whatever I see and experience is a result of something that I have created in a past, in a previous lifetime or in this lifetime. So nothing is new for me. It's just only that I'm reaping what I've sown a long, long time a long time ago. So now for me, it's to what do I do with it? How can I solve it? How can I turn this into positive energy if it's negative?
And so, like many times, people in the adolescent age, in the early youth, they are the most vulnerable in terms of channelizing their energies, their emotions, their feelings. And this is the only age and the time when people fall prey to intoxicants, any kind of addictions. They get distracted from their path rather than focusing on their career or their growth. So what do you say when you are bubbling up with that intensity and energy and emotions? How can you channelize that? Is there any tip for the youth?
If I understand you right, you mean if I am suddenly overcome by a lot of emotions, which
Yes.
maybe either bring me to drugs or anything like this to distract or
Yes,
whatever, yeah.
yes, or
Well,
any self-affliction, any form of self-affliction or low self-esteem. So what do you think? What could be the right strategy or advice to the youth for these
well,
kind of problems?
I have made a video on the TED Talk on boredom, which is a typical example. Boredom is not a very strong negative feeling, but it is a negative feeling. And it is a negative feeling which most of us do not wish to deal with. And so we usually go to the refrigerator, or do we just go to Netflix or something else to avoid boredom. But boredom is a wonderful teacher for us if we are willing to sit down and find out what is it actually, what is this emotion that I try to run away from, what is coming up and I do not wish to deal with. So I'm just, normally I would say I'm just bored, so let's do something about it, let's go out, let's have a party or whatever. But now I can sit down and look at it. Where does it come from? What is underneath this uncomfortable feeling? And that's in my video, that's how I partly started to write all my books. There was a feeling of loneliness. So I really
watched that.
went into the feeling of loneliness very deeply. And it says, where does it come from? And when I played with it and acknowledged it, and I knew where it came from, because it was my new career, which is suddenly I had nobody around me. I was always a sales manager with 20 people around me. And suddenly as a writer, I was sitting all alone in my studio. And that is a very lonely progress. I had COVID in the case before anybody else had by becoming a writer. But so I faced it. And when you face it and you send it love and really intensive love, even if you not totally know where it comes from, but you send it, you shower it with the love that you're capable of, it then becomes something you can play with. And I used that energy and created characters out of this, of loneliness, and created stories out of this. So whenever I was bogged down by a negative emotion, which at the time I saw initially as boredom, I've explored very deeply what was this emotion and how can I use it? And then I turned this into a story. And once you have loved it, you can play with it. But as long as you try to run away from it and go to the refrigerator or to drugs or anything else, you cannot play with it. It is ruling us. And we can let it go and we can become friendly with it and says, tell me what is underneath it. Tell me what's the matter here. And tell me of how can I change this into something positive. Our question is always the answer already there.
So creative refuge or seeking refuge in creativity or any creative outlet always help to release that pent up energy. And so like I'm shifting, hence I'm shifting from one topic to another topic
Sure.
because there is so much I want to ask you. And one more thing, like when we talk about nature and humans, so every time I keep on getting this comment and I get asked this question that I keep on seeing these numbers, I keep on seeing this thing. So you think that to keep us firm on our path, nature and the universe and divinity also gives us signs that if I'm supposed to be on the path of succeeding in my career and I'm getting distracted, so nature is trying to give me signs and omens. So what is your take on that, Hans?
I think it depends on what you are facing in many ways. A lot of can be distraction from our goal, but other things, if we are really open to it, let us also remember the goals which we have set very often in our career and so on. If we are really honest, and many of them are ego-centered and something we want to become famous, we want to become big, rich and whatever. It's not necessarily what our soul has in mind. But if we are open in the here and now and see the signs and signals which are coming up, then we may redirect our path gently in the direction where our soul wants to take us. And that may be a very different one than the becoming the big sales manager of a huge company or whatever, a director, and becoming very famous. So if we follow the signs around us, I think we are guided all the time, because we have our guardian spirit with us. Each one of us has a guardian spirit who carefully, gently, he will not make decisions for us, but gently maybe pulls us gently into directions and into areas where we maybe ought to be, or which we at least should look at very carefully, very much respectful of our free will. But there may be instances that several times we are facing the same situation with the same person, with the same number or whatever you may have there. And it's just maybe a gentle reminder, look into this. Where does it come from? Why is this person suddenly in your life for the third time? What does a person tell you? What is your reflection? What does he send to you? What is similar with that person, with yourself? Because the outer world is also nothing else than a mirror. So when we see the outer world as a mirror, repeating ourselves, always seeing the same thing, then it's obviously something that is already in us. It does not have to be bad. It can be also something positive. So whenever we enjoy something and something else, that also is maybe a reminder, says, look, you can do that too. It's in you too. So it goes both ways. And whatever we repeatedly appears in our program, in our sight, even or what we hear, there may be a message, and it's worthwhile to sit down and then go into a little prayer and ask, let me know, what can I do with this, and how can I use this on my path back home?
And hence I watched this video, very beautiful video on the topic of coming out of the cocoon. So when I've seen so many people, they remain they create this halo or this aura of their own suppressed feelings, negativity. So rather than expanding their consciousness, expanding their world, they just live restricted in that small cocoon. So like, what do you think? What could be the right approach or right words of wisdom for them to expand their consciousness? What do you think? How can we motivate those people who are still stuck in this small inner cocoon? What do you think, Hans?
I think the first step is always, what is there in your life right now that upsets you, that gives you an uncomfortable feeling? So we start with that one. We start with a thing which you think shouldn't be there, because that is there for a very good purpose. And that is usually a reflection of yourself or something in yourself. So we start with that instead of, as I said earlier, running away from it, ignoring it, and so on. Let's look at it, what comes up in a moment to life. As I said earlier, every day is made up of components which we have once given into the universe, into the stars. And from the stars, as karma, it comes back to us. Every moment of the day is made up of little components. It can be the phone call. It can be huge. It can be Zoom. It can be watching the Zoom video. It can be anything where there is something that gives us initially, most likely an initial, not so much intellectual jolt, but maybe an emotional jolt. And look to that. There is a reason why I'm just suddenly feel afraid, why I feel worried about the future, etc. So that mirror, that element, take that, look at it deeply and says, what is it? What makes me worried about my future right now? What do I have to believe? What kind of belief do I have to make me think that this would be true? What is the source of it? Where does it come from? Does it remind me of something in my childhood? Where does this worry about the future comes from? And when we do this and solve this one, and if there's anything to be forgiven, then this element in our past will vanish. And then we will deal with the next thing. So from moment to moment, we have all these little tasks every day, and we can only do them if we are as much as we can in the here and now, and have our eyes and ears open to all the signals that are coming. And this is usually very much expressed in our feelings that we have from moment to moment.
And like in these difficult times where people have started questioning their own faith, they are a little bit stressed, they are a bit fearful. So what do you think, like how can faith help them in these difficult times just to move ahead, keep on moving ahead, remain optimistic? So how can we guide them, how can we motivate them? Because that is what my main objective is, just to make people come out of this negativity and think optimistic that this is a phase and we will definitely come out of it. So what do you think, Hans? What's your words for people who are in fear?
The first thing which comes to my mind when you said that was, of course, the problem is we feel depressed and worried and concerned is because we rely on ourselves. Because we think, oh, I may not be able to manage. I will not have enough of this, enough of that. So we trust our ego, ourselves, to carry us through the future. How about total surrender? How about total surrendering to divinity, to God? And let God guide you to where you need to be. God is abundance. And if we really relax into his constant abundance that he wishes us to have, everything will change. As long as we think we have to do everything ourselves on our own in this very brutal world around us, we will be very distraught and very upset and very worried. But once we understand that we are never, ever, 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 ever alone, we have, as I mentioned, the guardian spirit before, we have, in my belief, it is Christ as well, who is not necessarily outside of me, but within me, on my fourth chakra. That energy can convert any negativity into positivity. And having these divine helpers around me 24 hours every day, who do not take coffee breaks and who want to help us, can give us some confidence. Now, their help may not necessarily be coming in a way as we would like that to be. Like, for instance, suddenly I want to have a lot of money so I can pay my bill and so on. That may not come that way, but there may come maybe the reason that you get evicted from your home. And that eviction can then, if you surrender, lead you to another place in another town where there your life continues on a different level. And if you hadn't been evicted on place A, you wouldn't go to place B. So our so-called negative fate, which you see, can be a blessing, or it's always a blessing. Everything happens to us, for us, not to us. But it's difficult to see that when we are down in the dumps and when we are without health, without money, and so on. But in the end, it is always there for us. Everything is here to help us. Everything is here to guide us. And so often, when we look back in our life, when we thought it was very dark and it wouldn't go any further, and somehow we managed to get out of it, that remembrance of the times when over and over again we continued to live can help us as well to pull through this valley, because there will be a mountain again, mountaintop for us. And the mountaintop will be much shinier and much easier to climb if we rely on the help of the divine forces that surround us and also are within us.
And hence, what is your view on with being close to nature? Because when I see someone stressed, so one of the basic thing, or the always thing which I always include is establish your connection with nature. So what do you think, Hans? Like going for long walks on beach, or taking out time for being in the middle of the nature. How come nature helps? How come, or being close to nature, how rejuvenating it is? What is your experience with that? Do you
But
also?
I think you're spot on there. This is a very practical step to be taken, and it is a very healing one and a very, very powerful. Not everybody lives necessarily in an area where they can go to nature, but it's worth the effort to find that. Nature is the calming element. It has a loving energy, the trees and so on, as well as the water. It has a cleansing energy. And when we are when we get away, see, thoughts are energies, energy bubbles. There are huge thought forms continuously surrounding us wherever we are. And if we are in a room and have had lots of negative thoughts, these thought complexes continuously surround us and take us over again and over again. We become puppets of our thought pattern. But once we leave our room, leave our house, the environment we are in a different area. Of course, we can also enter a worse area where negative thoughts are there as well. But going to nature, there the chances of negative life forms very, very low. So there we have got the clean, fresh atmosphere, which help us to clear up also our foggy thoughts so much. So I think that is a very powerful understanding, that in our room where we continuously sit and have negative thoughts, that room is totally polluted by our own negative thinking. So get out of it, take some deep breath. Deep breathing is, of course, very, very powerful as well. And do that in nature, and slow, deep breathing, and go out. And of course, meditation as well. But if you can do that outside as well, even better. I think you're absolutely right. The idea, the possibility to go outside and make this practical change is a very, very helpful thing if we can do that. Yes.
And hence, like you have also talked about chakras as well, the energy centers. So I will tell you one small experience which I had once. I went to one workshop of doing the mantra recitation for the beach mantra of the chakras. So what happened? I attended this workshop. So the person who was taking up the workshop, that a ma'am, guru lady, she advised me that to everyone, the whole group, that don't get frightened if next day you will have less appetite or more appetite, you will feel dry, more thirsty, or any of the changes. So what happened in the, like I after that workshop I went to sleep in the morning. So at around 4:30 or 3:30, I it was not a sleep paralysis, but my consciousness got awakened, but my body was asleep. And I felt that my body is afloat on the bed, like it's little bit above on the bed, so I'm not on the bed. Like, oh, suddenly I got worried. Then I thought, why is it like this? I realized, oh, I attended the workshop. So then this could be because of that. So then I again went back to sleep. The next day when I went to a ma'am, that instructor, I told her. So she asked me, so can you see yourself? I was like, no, 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 I'm not that advanced. I'm not on that advanced stage. I just felt myself lying afloat, little bit above on the bed. So she said, yeah, that's normal, that's positive, that yes, you have that this potential. So what do you think, Hans? You're like you have you ever tried doing the chakra meditation or anything you want to add on chakras, on Kundalini?
Well, there's a lot of things. Yeah, there's a lot of different teachings about the chakras, and the Eastern chakras give the chakras, which I call the energy centers, different names and maybe different qualities as well. But basically, these are sort of energy centers which feed our physical body for the time being to keep it alive and keep it going. And each one has a different purpose as well. Now, that the soul leaves our body is a natural state and in a dream state. It's always happening that our soul is leaving the body. It's connected with the silver cord, but it does leave our physical body and goes to wherever the soul is attracted to. And hopefully it goes to a very higher region where you can learn, where you are instructed, but you can also go to the negative areas, to the astral areas. You can even stay here on planet Earth, walk around. So the separation from the soul of the body we do it every day, every night. That you experience or are aware of it, that is probably unusual, and that's, I don't know much about to say I have anything else to say that. So you're aware of it. What I have made a video on is something which a lot of young people like to do. They do like astral traveling. So walking, traveling in the astral world, which means basically separating your soul from your physical body in meditation or in trance, and going into the astral worlds. And I make a video on it, and I do not believe that is a helpful tool at all, because we are not strong enough. And why would we want to do that? Curiosity kills the cat. So, I mean, that is something, everything comes to us when we need to learn it. Why force this information? You are going into the astral worlds, which is not the highest form of being. It's not the high spiritual worlds. The astral worlds are full of astral beings, and astral beings can be very negative, destructive, selfish, and clinging kind of entities. I would not want to mix and mingle with them. Now, there may be some interesting spheres to be in and a great adventure, but please concentrate on the life you have from the morning till evening. Here, it's busy enough to deal with that. Don't wander into the night. So these are my personal views on the astral traveling, which a lot of young people do and want to do. And it says, be aware you are dealing with something which is not necessary. You can really take home some of these astral beings and they cling to you and you don't get rid of them. So they can ruin your life. I would not go, I would warn of doing that. But you are not doing that on purpose. It just happened to you. And it's as I said, you're just aware that your soul separated itself from your body, which, as I said, I feel it's absolutely normal. We do that every night when our soul leaves our body into the dreamlands.
Yes. And Hans, one question which I always like wonder on, that, for example, like all those people who are in creative business. So I see some of the actors and aspiring actors, like all these people who work hard, they are talented, they keep on going for auditions and all. Still, they struggle in making a mark. But there are those people who get back-to-back bookings. They are always busy, and we are not in that time and era where there is limited platform, limited streaming platform. So here we comes down to this concept of fate. So then people sometimes end up saying this thing, oh, it might not be my fate, or how can I change it? So what do you think? Like, can fate be changed? All those people who have the talent, they're aspiring for something. And so what do you think? What do you have to contribute on this to motivate these people who are fighting with their fate despite being talented?
I think, Nipun, it's from case to case very different. It's difficult and maybe dangerous to make generalization. But my first question is always when somebody so desperately wants to become an actor or an actress.
Anything they want to achieve, yes.
Well, in the arts, particularly there, it is something that says, why is it so? Is it because you like the adoration, the admiration, you like the applause, you like to have the approval of the audience? This can be also, and if that is the case, you may just want to look a little bit closer. Why do you need that so desperately? Why do you need the approval of other people? Why do you feel your self-worth is depending on how other people feel about you? And that is something, and then also very often, if it's, I would also question of this, how was your relationship with your father? That very often is a motivator why many people become actors, because there's something they want the approval of their father. But that's not the case with everyone. So it's nothing wrong really in as such to want the approval at times from other people, but still it just shows that there is something lacking. And we are selling ourselves, we are selling our soul, we are doing everything, the social media and so on, just by getting our likes, getting the approval on whatever. So our ego is running our show in many ways, and as becoming an actor or an artist in this way, who is relying on the approval of other people, is very much in a dangerous situation, I would say. And it's helpful to realize what it is, what they really want. If it's just love you want, start giving it yourself first. Start finding the love which is deep in you, which is the divine love. And it all sounds very easy. I understand that. But when we are brought up so desperately that we need other people's approval, then it takes some time to really throw that overboard and move in the love and in the grace of divinity of God, who always loves us unconditional, unlimited, and all-inclusively, so we can never do anything wrong. So to switch from the human approval love to the divine love is easier said than done, because if you have never thought about this, it's something still very, very abstract. So that is the first thing which comes to my mind then when it comes to the arts. The other thing which comes when things don't work out as we wish, yes, it can very well be that our soul wants to drive us in a different direction. It's fine to have our goals and to study and to learn for certain kind of professions, but be open. Let's do whatever you enjoy in life, and do it until you can't do it any further, but without expectations. And that's the secret of this whole thing. When we do something without expectations of a future result, then we are not bound and we are not disappointed. Then we just have the enjoyment of doing whatever needs to be done. At the moment, I'm an actor, I'm enjoying it and so on. It's fine, but I don't need the applause every day. Maybe next year I do something different. I do gardening instead. So when we are not concerned about the results, then life will slowly guide us from one step to the next step of always where we need to be. But when we are attached to the results of how our career should be, our life will be, we will be very frustrated. Things will not turn out that well as it, because there's something else maybe waiting for us. I will give you an example. For instance, when somebody wants to become an architect, ask yourself very, very clearly, why do you want to? This is an architect. This happened to a friend of mine. And so he wanted to build houses and so on. And then it came out through a live transgression that he was a famous architect in Greece, and he was very, very famous, and everybody honored him and loved him and so on, and he was very respected. And this ego satisfaction of the ego says, oh, look at the respect I had as an architect, he carried on into his new life. And so the motivation was not to build beautiful houses to help other people. The motivation was to get the acceptance of other people. So that's always very difficult when we do something for the approval of other people. And that's just one of the examples.
And hence, when we talk about fate and free will, so how much do you say that on my, because even I personally feel that everything is properly designed by the divine, basis our deeds, our actions, our thoughts, energy created by us. So do we still have a portion of free will where we can, for someone who is completely engaged in an indulgent life or doing wise or bad deeds, does he still have a free will to come out of that negativity or start building some positive karma? So how much do you think is the percentage of free will versus fate?
Now, fate is the thing we are facing. Like, for instance, a bad situation, a bad relationship, a phone call, an email, and that can shock us and upset. So that is fate. And that we have created, as you correctly said, ourselves. We have set it up previously, and this our past lifetimes. This is basically karma coming back to us. But every time we're facing it, we then have our free will, or 24 hours, we can use our free will to decide what do we do with this fate. Do we now become a victim of it and blame God and blame the world about it? Why is this happening to me? Or am I taking constructive steps to heal the situation and to make it right? So the free will we have all the time, every time, etc. So a murderer who goes out to kill somebody, just until the last second, he can still say no and don't do the deed. So we have the free will. We are not driven to do everything. We can always say no to everything or say yes to everything. It depends in which direction. So the free will is always there. So that is a wonderful gift of God, gave us free will, that at any moment of our life, we can change it. Any instance, every second, we can change the direction of our life and step into basically, as some call it, in a different parallel universe, in a new universe, where suddenly we have dealt with the situation differently. We have overcome it and we are moving on. Instead of, because if we do not solve the fate of whatever comes in us, it will repeat itself. It will repeat itself until we look at it and we love it and we overcome it and heal it. Very often into the case with forgiveness and asking for forgiveness. So free will is something we always have from morning till evening, and we can make the choices. We can choose, do we want, but unfortunately, most people do not use the free will. What we do is we react versus responding. When we do respond, we use the free will. And reacting is something, is our emotional charge. It's something chemical in our mind which just sets off. There's a person who says something horrible to me, and now I have to fight back, revenge, and so on. That's an emotional reaction. It works very quickly. And scientists have found out that we already know that our mind knows already in advance, before we are aware of it, what we are going to do, how we will react, because we are running on old programs, on old fears, on old worries. So we react. That is sort of the most normal way how we react. But we have in the West a saying, count to 10 before you act. Then if we do that, that is responding. And when we respond to something, we act from our true self, from our higher self. And we look at it and says, why is this person with this nasty attitude suddenly in my life? And we use self-reflection and self-recognition. What is it that I attracted? What is in me that I attracted this? What do I have to heal in myself or with this person? And then we are responding. So we are using free will. And we can also use our free will by changing our attitude. If we just don't like a circumstances, like having to live with your parents now because of COVID, suddenly and so on, you can curse it, you can hate it, but you can change your attitude. And you could say, what a blessing that I do have a home to go to. And I do have parents or people who care for me. So instead of hating it, resenting it, we can always start loving it. We can find the positive in every negative situation. In the most horrific situation is a positive. Even in COVID, for instance, think about all the positive things which come out of it as well. There is a lot of self-reflection taking place. People are developing new skills, seeing the world very differently. People may not rush back quite to the consumerism that we had before, etc., etc. So when we focus on the positive always in life, the negativity in our vibration and our mind will slowly go away, and we are more open to the here and now. So the positive in look at the positive in everywhere. Look at the silver lining in everything, or look at this, the treasure which is in every situation.
So hence, like the best practice, like if we were to recommend to someone, like for example, if someone has got a very hateful, very angry, always self-critical nature, if we have to make that person a loving and a calm person, so that deeply ingrained tendencies and personality, what do you think, what could be the right way of advising this person so that he could be transitioned to a loving and calm person? So what do you think, which practice or suggestion helps the best?
First of all, if he hasn't asked for advice, forget it. So that's we don't give advice, because advice is usually, it also has a word vice in it. Vice, it is something negative.
Advice,
So
yes,
advice
yes.
is something, I know what you mean, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
we always want to change people, and we have to also respect if this is what you want to be. If you want to live this life as an angry person this time, I love you and I respect you for that. It is, however, if you wish to find another way, there are a few things which you may want to consider and keep in mind. And we can suggest certain things. And of course, in most cases, where does this anger come from? We have to explore it. What is the underlying belief that I have to make me so angry about everything? What do I believe? Maybe I feel I'm not enough of it, or I feel that everybody's against me, or something happened in my childhood. So I think a person who is continuously angry definitely has some issues to look at. So that is a time of self-reflection. And there is no simple pill to say, now you must be happy and look at everything. No, he has to firstly look and find out what it is, what makes him unhappy, and what is also outside in the outside world that he sees continuously that really upsets him, because he has to eventually will find out that this is a very thing which is in him as well, and it is an unloved component in himself. And when he is willing to do that, he can maybe slowly step forward and says, okay, I see that I have this tendency, and it's bad and it harmed me, but there's also something positive in this tendency. It kept me alert, it kept me awake, it kept me out of trouble, whatever it may be. So we look at this as well, but it is only possible if the person really, really wants to. A lot of people, because anger is something that is sometimes the last thing the person still has. People like to identify with anger and keep their anger because it's the last thing they can rely on. Everything else seems to be taken away from them. So they think. And the only constant they have in their life is their anger. So therefore, I'm hesitant to say, look, they should change. Sometimes they don't want to change. Life eventually may bring them to a point of deeper self-reflection. But we have to respect that a person who is angry, continuously angry, may want to be that way for the time being.
I, sir, like Hans, I was watching this post on Instagram, which BBC made a story on that, and that was a very beautiful thing. This celebrity, I forgot her name, so she said this thing that whenever people start writing something bad or negative, or they told me, and if it is very intensely negative bad, rather than I myself getting myself affected, I DM that person that, hey, this is the number, you can get the help. I hope you will be fine. So like it's so beautiful, so inspiring. No, she can actually read through the lines that the person's behavior is driven by some of the other issue that person is facing. So yes,
That's
that
it.
actually helps. And Hans,
True.
one question which I wanted to ask over here, that many times what happens is that all those people who are single, they keep on waiting for their right partner to enter their life. And like someone like me, like if I were to advise, I will say, wait, have divine faith. At the right time, right person is going to enter your life. Then they say, okay, if I'm not going to put efforts, how I'm going to find someone? So in this kind of turmoil, this kind of difficult situation, all those people who are single, there are those category of people, they are happy in their life, they do not want to be in relationship. But there are those who have so much love to offer, and they are still struggling in finding someone. So what do you think, that concept of soul partner, or someone who will enter at the right time, or you should wait for that, or you should keep on trying here and there, all the possible means? What do you have to say on that, Hans? On the,
Well,
on the
that's another whole show together.
I'm so sorry.
But yeah,
So sorry. Just to
yeah,
be
no,
sure.
no, no, no. That's fine. That's fine. I just sort of share what comes through my mind. The first thing which comes to my mind whenever we do this, you firstly must fall in love with yourself, and it's not an ego trip. If you look for the partner to love, it's yourself. Look into the mirror, no further. That is the person you love. If you do not love yourself and expect you are becoming better, or you will be more valuable if somebody else loves you, That's a problematic view. So you firstly have to really learn to accept and love yourself, see yourself as this divine being who is just having a tough time here on earth, and you're only here for 25,000 days. That's all you're here. That's the average. So it's a very, very short visit here, 25,000 days. That's the average. So just make that sure, get it clear. Yeah, this is not eternity. This is not always. It's a short visit. Like sometimes you go on vacation on your own. So, and not without your family. So that's, or when you go to college, you go on your own. That's what basically this is. And it's not necessarily for everybody else to be mated and have a partner, because there is a tremendous gift. And I've been for years alone before I got married as well. And I just noticed the difference when you are afterwards married. That being alone, you can reach levels of meditation and levels of intimacy in yourself, which will be very difficult when you share your physical life with another person, because you have continuously, you are in each other's way sometimes.
Yes.
And so don't idolize the idea of having to live with living with another person too much. There is a tremendous blessing of being alone. And I don't say lonely, I think being alone and embracing the alone there is a tremendous gift. And I only realized this afterwards, that I had to be these several years alone, because I reached a meditation level on that to that degree that I have not reached again since I'm married, because now my life is very different and the vibrations are different, and it's okay. It's absolutely right. But what I have experienced during the period when I was single was of such depth that gives me. So I don't believe in God, I know of God. And that was only possible because during those years when I was alone and used that time and went into meditations and a deep discourse with the divinity, and had a very close relationship, and still have that. But at that time, it was very pronounced in me and vibrated with me continuously throughout the days. So instead of cursing the situation you are in right now, and you're longing for another partner and so on, remember that there is a tremendous blessing of being alone and having to, and you can really work. And you're, as I said, you're never alone. You are with your spiritual guides. You can start to communicate with them and speak loud with them. That's good. Pray loud. And all these things are difficult when you are later married. But have this wonderful communication with God. Have this wonderful communication with Jesus if you want to, Christ, or you can even use your guardian spirit. I wouldn't go to any other spirit beings for a reason of protection, because there are a lot of entities out there who pretend they are Gabriel or whatever it is, and they give you everything. So I just stay away from anybody else. I go always direct to source. I will always go direct to God. That's for me the best way. And he is in me, and I am in him. So yeah, we are never separated anyway. But so that's the one important point I like to say. Those of you who, those people who hope that they will now finally find their soulmate. I made a video on this. I would invite you to watch it. And that is very different than what you normally hear in New Age teaching. You are here to become strong and clear up your act. And the best way to do it is to do it alone. You can have a partner, a life partner, the one you married, and a family as your teachers, that's fine. But your soulmate is such an important half of you that if you have that real wonderful soulmate in your life, no obstacle would be really there for you anymore. You suddenly have so much support, physical support there, that you wouldn't be able to really face all the obstacles in life. But now on your own, that's why you go alone to your college. You don't take your comfort dog with you, or your grandmother, or anybody else. You go alone to college, and you have to face this new environment of new people. And that's how you grow. And that's why we are only here for 25,000 hours or 25,000 days or 800,000 hours, for this very, very short time, each time we incarnate here, to become strong and to let go of all the garbage which we have accumulated in past lifetimes. And sometimes it's better to do it on your own. Now, other people may get their soul partners there, but these people who truly have their soul partners coming for usually other reasons than just only cleaning up their karma. They are here to do some kind of service, to help, or to do something here on this planet to help other people. And for that, it's okay to have a partner with you who helps you on this very difficult task. But if you don't find your soul partner, don't be upset. But it doesn't mean that you can't have a wonderful relationship with your life partner. That can be your wife, your partner, whatever it is in life. You don't necessarily have to be married, but you can have a wonderful time with them. And that is okay. but praying and hoping for this glorious lifetime. You are the partner to live in this lifetime with. You must be loving and accepting yourself. It doesn't mean that you see yourself necessarily as perfect. You are quite much aware that there are certain things which still need to be changed. But you also give yourself credit that you have mastered a lot of BS in the past already. You have overcome several troubles, and you give yourself credit for the negativity or the negative circumstances that you have survived, and honor that and move on and says, I've done that, I can do more of this. And you're never alone, and you have got all the support. You have got the divine world helping you on your side. So being alone is tough. I know it's not easy. You like to cuddle up to somebody and do other things. I understand that fully, but the time will come if that's right for you. And if as long as it's not there, use it in a positive way. Use it really to get deeply within yourself, make the connection with divinity in yourself. It is the only asset we have. It's the only thing to rely on. It's the only fundament we can stand on. Anything else, our money doesn't help us. Our reputation doesn't help us. Our relatives don't help us when it comes really to the crunch. The only thing when it comes to the worst thing comes to life is our connection to divinity in ourselves. If we don't have that, then we would be just like a boat in the storm without a sail. We would just be drifted lost. But the rudder and the captain in ourselves, if we know about the captain and have a connection to the captain in ourselves, then we are really sailing well.
And hence, I have just last two questions. Last two curiosity. I'm so sorry. First is about like the way you said about meditation. So today there are so many different types of meditation and techniques which are available. So is there any specific you want to recommend to audience to reach your level of consciousness which helped you in your life? So first question is that. Second question is about law of attraction. So these are the last two things which I want to talk to you on. And thank you.
Well, I think you feel drawn to the meditation style of meditation you like. You have to explore different offering. I personally like the going deeply within myself. I do not. The guided meditation can be very helpful, but what I'm trying to say is, do it on your own and do it in your guidance. When you are joining groups and organizations, it can be a little bit difficult because you're basically aligning yourself to the organization, to the groups, to the teachings. And I believe in meditation is such a sensitive and such a powerful, potent kind of avenue of interaction. The only connection you may want to create is between God and yourself. And therefore, you will find the right word within, or just only get into silence. I have one meditation or two meditations in my videos on lifeexplained.com, where it is the God within. Try it out how that works for you. I think that's the form of meditation which I use myself in many different ways. So that is a way to check out on my YouTube channel, Hans Wilhelm. Yes. And the other thing, law of attraction, of course, the whole universe runs on the law of attraction, like attracts like, and what dislike attracts repels each other. So that is the whole universe running on this one. And this is also with people. We find ourselves attracted because there are some similarities, and we dislike certain people who have the same negative things like we have. So we stay away from them because we don't want to face them. So it is the law of attraction is also the law of attraction which works in karma. We send it out, the karma, into the universe, and eventually it comes back to us because we are the only vibrating one with the karma. It's sort of like it comes back like a boomerang. So everything is on the law of attraction, and we can work ourselves higher and higher by being more focused in our day-to-day life, being more positive, finding the positive in everything. And most importantly, trying to love everything. Everything can here be loved. I made a video and called Love It All. It's very difficult initially, but it makes total sense. And when I said earlier about this 1 + 1 is 1, why not love everything? Why not love everything? Because the moment you exclude anything, you're not believing that formula. So love is all inclusive, unconditional, and unlimited and selfless. That is not the love we have usually for our partners, for our pets. This is a love which is much, much deeper. And the more we deal with it and handle it and facing our life and ourselves with this love, the better our life will be.
Thank you. So hence one thing which I want to compliment you before we will conclude this video, that many of my subscribers and like people who like appreciate, I'm very grateful to God that people who are connected with me in my community oh my God, they love you. Like I remember there was one this person, I was doing a consultation, we were having a conversation. I asked her, okay, you listen to this person or have you watched this person? This lady, she said, no, I only watched Hans William, and one day I actually want to meet him. And there's another person who got connected with me on Facebook. He also keeps on sharing your video. He recently shared this video of law of karma of yours, where this the US and everything, he watched that. So it's like, yeah, a lot of my audience, and they are going to be very excited once they will see this notification of this video, that I got lucky to have a conversation with you. And Hans, before we will conclude this video, is there any upcoming project of yours which you want to announce, which you want to share to people or to audience? Is there anything?
No, only more videos. You see, I do not see myself as a teacher or a guru or any or therapist. I am those who have seen my videos. I am a writer and illustrator of children's books, and I do this only here to explain my own kind of spiritual understanding. So I'm merely offering visually how I understand the spiritual laws. So I don't want anybody to put me on kind of pedestal or thinks that I know more. No, I am a student as well. I'm walking this path like everybody else. And the only thing is I'm using the gift of illustrations to make it clear. The moment I see it myself, how all these dots connect, it makes total sense to me. And I think this is the preciousness of the path I'm teaching. It is so very, very clear and simple. It is of a uniqueness of simplicity. And the simplicity makes it so appealing to me and also to everybody else, because once you see how everything connects, it says, oh my God, why didn't I see it before? So I know nothing, not more than anybody else. And whatever I know is in the books that I recommend at the end of many of my videos. So there you can do your own research further. So don't rely on me. I'm just only a way shower and says, look, this may be of interest to you. But I do appreciate what you say, that many of your viewers are familiar with my videos, and I will continue making more videos on different subjects.
Yes, we want that. We want that. So thanks a lot, Hans. Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity to have a direct conversation with you. I'm overwhelmed with emotions. I'm very thankful, very grateful, and thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Nipun. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.